a wild Jazz has been spotted.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Yep, we got Jazz here, we got Mike here,
Hello.
We've got Kat here, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but I think the biggest thing that we got to hit, just like right off the bat, is Nintendo Stream. Like, all of the Nintendo stuff went down, which is to say, 2 games.
There was a Nintendo Stream? No.
No. Yep.
Nah.
No, there totally was. And so I guess we'll just jump right into it. Pokemon. Huh? Pokemon, anybody?
It is a Sun and Moon is a game that is coming out, and
Yes.
it is the Pokemon game with the Pokemon.
All right, well, I'll give Sun and Moon the amount of time that it deserves.
So as much time as Nintendo did in its stream?
No, God, no. That's way too much time.
It's just going to be filler now until the good stuff later on. Is basically what Pokemon was. Is there to keep you watching while everyone waited for the big game announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like, it's like programming, captive programming, Jeremy was calling it.
Yeah.
All right, this is all just what I'm going to say about Pokemon. Presentation's a little bit better. The only thing of substance that I saw that really hasn't been... they showed, like, the trash... the vendor trash Pokemon. So in every Pokemon, you get 2 new monsters, right? You get 2 monsters at the very beginning of the game. One's a flyer, one's, like, kind of a regular monster. And it's like they're the vendor trash, right? You maybe get them, but they aren't that good.
I've never heard of them like that. So like the Rattata and the Pidgey.
Yes, those are vendor trash Pokemon. So they showed those, big deal. They showed a bit of the story. Yeah, that's why people are playing Pokemon. The most interesting thing that they saw was Battle Royal. Not Battle Royale, Battle Royal. Where it's 4-player free-for-all. And I was like, okay. I mean, it seems kind of gimmicky. I don't see that actually being like a competitive thing because it's like a beatdown, right?
Right.
Everybody takes in 3 monsters. You can and then you can attack one another, whatever. I think the thing that most jumped out at me, and I said this on the post, was it's in a hall. It's like the Battle Royal hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is like going to be a tournament hall. Maybe this is something interesting that you can do in the post game.
No.
And that's honestly, hey, don't be all cynical.
Me? Cynical about Pokemon? No.
We'll see. I was pretty disappointed with the post game content of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and X and Y. And honestly, there hasn't been like really good post game content since Black 2 and White 2 when they had the Pokemon World Tournament, which was awesome. In case you didn't hear about that one. That was a tournament where you could fight every single gym leader and Elite Four member and champion from the game's history up until that point. It was awesome. I loved it.
I would just like to point out that Kat's the only one that actually plays Pokemon. I
Yeah.
have all of them, but only play like the first couple hours, and I don't know. Do you have Pokemon at all?
No, I've never played. I played a Pokemon demo, and it was interesting. I could definitely see the appeal, but I don't play it. It's not my thing really.
No. So Kat is the one, not only the only one that knows about it, but deep knowledge about Pokemon.
I'm so burned out on it. Oh my god. Alright, so I'm not going to bore everybody with Pokemon talk for the rest of the time. So let's move on to the real substance of the show. Pro Evolution Soccer. No. No, let's talk about Zelda.
Zelda.
So if you missed it, Nadia wrote like 2,000 words about it on the site. Like, she went into exhaustive detail. I think she just earned herself the review.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
She
like,
definitely deserves to
that
do it.
girl, like, loves her some Zelda. Like, I totally respect that. But, yeah, they showed a lot.
They did.
And it looks amazing.
It
Is there
does.
anything else that needs to be said about the new Zelda?
Link can jump.
Link can jump.
Link can jump.
This is really exciting, right? Biggest news of the day. The first time that I heard them say that Breath of the Wild would be open world, I was like, oh, big deal. I mean, Zelda, like, Ocarina of Time was open world to the extent that could be done on the N64.
That's
One
true.
way or
That's
another,
true.
you've always had
That's true.
a big open plain. But but in many respects, it's not really open world because you have a big field that you run around. That's kind of a connective hub,
And then a bunch of paths to.
and then a bunch of like side areas,
Yeah.
which are which consist of like, and then you can go here, and now you'll go to the next dungeon, and
Yeah.
you'll continue onward. Whereas this feels like an actual open world that you're
Yes.
exploring, almost something more akin to Xenoblade Chronicles X, only like maybe a little more compelling than that.
Right. And so it's going to have, what was it, 4 dungeons, 4 like full dungeons, and then 100 shrines, which are their smaller puzzle-filled like dungeons to sort of fill it out. So there's a lot, not just the open world, but there's a lot of Zelda puzzly dungeon crawling action that is out there for you.
Indeed. So a few other things that were like really jumped out at me. No hearts in the grass anymore. I mean, what will we do?
You gotta cook.
You gotta cook. This is like straight up Monster Hunter stuff. Or
Yes.
Odin Sphere stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, everybody's like a foodie now. Link's a foodie, Valkyrie's a foodie. But no, that sounds really cool, actually. And if they do it anywhere nearly as well as Odin Sphere, like, it'll be a fun mechanic, I think. Like, gathering the ingredients, making the potions, feeling like you're actually an adventurer, like, laden with, like, stuff as you're out there exploring. I think it'll be really great. And you can go all like full squirrel and climb up stuff and have like a wingsuit. And Link will have multiple weapons, including like spears and stuff. What do you think about that?
I think it is Zelda sort of taking back, and I've said before that I thought, oh god, I'm invoking its name, that Dark Souls was, it felt like the original Zelda, like many of the style of that first game about exploration and challenge was in Dark Souls, and it feels like this is Zelda taking some of that back.
Some of that back. Yeah, because the original Dark Souls, our Dark Souls actually cribs rather heavily. Well, not cribs, that's a bad word. It feels like it was influenced by the original Zelda, or at least they have a lot in common.
Yeah.
In the respect that they're both combat-heavy games that, like, are dungeon crawlers at their very heart and don't tell you a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what it ultimately comes down to, is this game is getting back to the spirit of the original Zelda. And that's really exciting. Jazz, you're not much of a Zelda player.
I really, really loved Ocarina of Time. I mean, I absolutely adored that game, and I haven't played the Zelda since then. And I mean, what impressed me about the demo was actually the technical side. It seemed just very, very impressive. The size of the landscaping, the fact that it's running on a Wii U. It just really surprised me. It looked like a beautiful game. I really liked the art direction. It felt more realistic than any Zelda game that I've seen, and it just is really appealing. And for me, as a sort of a non-Zelda player, it definitely won me over. I would be very interested in playing this game.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. So when I was at GamePro, we reviewed Skyward Sword. I was on the Skyward Sword review, and you would just walk over and you would look at it, and then you would shake your head and walk away, which I think is kind of the appropriate. I think that's kind of the appropriate reaction to Skyward Sword. I don't mean to be like too harsh on it, but we did leave it outside the top 10 in our best Zelda ever list.
Yeah, Skyward Sword.
Or you hated that game. You were the one who put it in the 20s.
I did. I really did.
So the way that we voted was like rank them essentially, and Mike put it like at the bottom.
Yeah, no, so I explained this. This is the Skyward Sword was the first time. Like, I bought Skyward Sword, like the special edition with the gold Wiimote, and I was ready to go, and then I played it for quite a while, and then I just stopped. And I never came back to it. And for me, that's possibly the worst a game can be. And that was the first time for me that a Zelda had done that, really.
And Mike powers through games.
I do.
He doesn't stop.
I do. I
Yeah.
destroy games, especially open world games.
Yes, you do. And Skyward Sword, like in many respects, seems like the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
Skyward Sword was very closed off. You were like flying around in clouds, but you would go down to warp points that would give you in like very closed off, curated areas. It was very story heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, the dungeons were actually really good. Like people forget that about Skyward Sword, but I feel like this is just a 180-degree turn for the series, and maybe that's for the best.
Yeah. Kunin, Bob also lowballed Skyward Sword, so you are correct. It was a team effort to bring Skyward Sword down to where it's supposed to be.
Oh. Yep. So lots of talk on here about how many dungeons there will be, and the rumor has it
Yes.
that there will be 4 main
4.
dungeons.
And the 100 Shrines. And Lord was correct when pointing that out. They confirmed the 100 Shrines, so we are nearing that feel.
Do we know how big a shrine is? Is that just like a little challenge, or is that like a mini dungeon?
It's like a smaller thing, but I don't know if they've said how long like a shrine will take 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see, right?
Yeah.
I hope that they don't end up being samey, is the main thing. And I'm kind of wondering, so are they like handcrafting 100 dungeons? Like how many like assets are they going to be using all the time? Like, is it going to start to feel a little bit repetitive? Like, how puzzle heavy is it going to be? Is it going to be very combat heavy?
Hopefully they'll have different challenges. I mean, that's always, to me, that's been one of the...
That's the core
hallmarks
of Zelda,
Yeah,
right?
the good Zelda
Yeah.
is it tests you in different ways, and I'm sure, the way it's designed, there'll be sort of speed dungeons and different things to pick up, and the variety that Zelda is known for.
Good job, Lord. Lord MBZ apparently got to see the entire Treehouse stream. So he is laying down the valuable information that we didn't get to see.
The 4 shrines from Treehouse yesterday were bite-sized, including the much larger later ones. Interesting. So, I mean, the only thing I would caution against is, first of all, I feel like Zelda needs to make sure that there's just enough to do in that big open world, which is,
Yeah.
I think, a big problem when you're in, like, that expansive of a thing. There's not always enough to actually do. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles X, it was awesome that it had this massive landmass, but what it came down to was you're doing some fetch quests and you had a very bare-bones story. And it felt empty, right? And I think that could be a danger for Zelda.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, if it tries to out Dark Souls, it may have a bad time.
I don't think it's going to out Dark. It like I said, it's taking some of those mechanics, the exploration, and some of those ideas back, but it's definitely not going in that direction. It is still a Nintendo game. It is meant to be fun. This is just like Dark Souls is like, let's go, punish, whip ourselves. Nintendo is like, no, come in, we love you.
Yeah, that accessibility is always really important. I was interested to see whether or not there's a sort of a significant training section, because that's something when I went back and played Ocarina of Time again, was I'd forgotten how long the training section actually was. It's quite significant in the way that it teaches you how to play the game, and I'm sure that element will be a very strong part of the new Zelda.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will be. Yeah, I think you're quite right in that. The reason that the original Zelda was just the way it was because this is the original NES. This was a time, like, you didn't have tutorials in Mario either, right? You just sat down, you had 2 buttons, you walked around and you attacked some guys, and then then you looked at the cave and then you were off, right? Now, like, games are obviously so much more complex. I mean, like, it's just an order of magnitude how much more complex this game is than the original Zelda. So, of course, you got to tutorialize a lot of elements.
yeah.
Interestingly, I think Nintendo's tutorials are rather boring. They tend to be a little slow paced. I don't think they're actually that elegant. I think Blizzard is the king of like really good tutorials.
Are you trying to bring down the fire?
No,
I'm trying to bring down the fire.
I'm all in on this Zelda game. I'm all in on it. It's gonna look really good. I can't wait to play it. We're gonna play it tomorrow. Actually, yes, we're gonna finally like actually get some like serious hands-on time with it, and so I'm looking forward to it. But moving on to the rest of the show, one of the first things that some people on the stream were saying was they felt like the lack of Japanese presence was killing the show for them. What's your... no, I know you don't care, Jess. You're like, whatever, I don't care. Well, what's your take on that, Mike?
So the reason there was probably a lack of Japanese, and I feel like I said this yesterday, like at the Sony thing, when we were talking about that, is most of those games are games that we already knew about. Microsoft doesn't have them, and Sony was very much, here's all of our new stuff that you haven't heard of. Like The Last Guardian was one of the larger, like, oh, we've heard this before, but that was all about, here's the release date.
I mean, that's a Japanese game.
It is.
It's coming out.
It is. So there you go. But that was why, like, people were like, well, I feel like that stuff wasn't there. All that stuff's on the show floor.
Yeah.
There's Persona has a pretty large booth.
Bandai Namco had Tekken 7 and Tales of Berseria.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 15.
Final Fantasy 15 and
Final Fantasy 12 HD Zodiac Age.
Right.
Which I'm excited for. Dragon Quest Builders. Actually, Square Enix's booth is actually pretty Japan heavy this year.
Yeah, and there was Xseed has their booth, right? I walked by, I feel I saw Trails of Cold Steel too.
I have not seen Xseed's booth.
Okay, I think it's behind. It's behind Sega and Atlas's, and Sega and Atlas's booth has, like I said, Persona. I had King of Fighters, which is XIV 14. Yeah, so I played it.
I think the disappointment is that there wasn't anything really new shown, and then also that Persona 5 didn't get a bigger platform that maybe it deserved. But I'm not surprised that Persona 5 didn't get a huge platform at like Sony's conference.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
I mean, there was RE7 and Kojima was there.
Yeah,
but like it was teaser stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sony's conference was like, here's new stuff.
Yeah.
Here's new stuff, and some of that stuff was in the sizzle reel, but for the most part, they were just like, here's new games we got, here's PSVR, and we out.
And we out.
And so anything that was old, they just sort of left off the table. I assume because they figured that we would do the rest for them.
Yeah.
Like I was walking the show floor and I tweeted, Gravity Rush 2 was right, and someone just said it there. Like Gravity Rush 2 is on the show floor. It's got a number of demo stations. You can walk by, you can play it, so it's there. I guess Sony was just like, no, that's not new. Let's go.
By the way, we're having a slight technical difficulties, so I'm going to stop the stream for 1 second, and then we'll be right back. So don't go away.
1 second.